You ready? I am.
This is really funny. Really funny. What do you mean I'm funny? It's funny, you know. It's a good story. It's funny. You're a funny guy.
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
All your life you will remember this night, and you'll know whom you have turned loose upon the world.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Good morning.
You have no idea how long it took to get this show started. There was a security update on my Mac, which usually isn't as bad, like, because there was just an update like 2 days ago. So I figured, oh, okay, security update, maybe they're just, it took it's 6:16 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the former United States on July 22nd in the calendar year 2021. For those of you buried under those government shelters that have become lava tubes, those DARPA robots aren't going to be able to dig through the mile of ice. Those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I pity you. Get back on your sit-down lawnmower and make your house look like it's surrounded by a golf course. Don't forget to do the edging around that 3-car garage. Yeah, it's one of those days. I've just been sitting here forever waiting for this Mac to do whatever it was supposed to do. 30 frames per second, CPU's a little bit high, the window's open, and we might as well just get right into this.
The Weather Watch forecast.
And outside my neck of the woods, as they say, it's 55 degrees. It's the dog days of summer, and it's cold. I was talking to somebody in Florida yesterday, and they were saying, how it was so hot. And I was saying, I lived in Florida. It's hot down there, okay? Welcome to Florida. It's actually 54 degrees, just updated. Supposed to be sunny today in these parts. High of 75 degrees in the dog days of summer. We're middle of it. Remember, there's technically 2 months as of today, or yesterday or today, there's 2 months of summer, official summer left. So we're in the heart of the dog days of summer, and it's 75 degrees and 55 for the overnight. And we'll just save that weekend forecast for tomorrow.
The Weather Watch forecast.
But if you want a little bit of a teaser about it, why is that? There's this thing floating in my thing. Why? I just don't know. I don't know. Okay. What is our bonus image here? I see. I got to get myself together. Get together live 7 days a week. And we got Gilda on our title card today. That's that classic scene. Yeah. What is this thing? There's something here, and I don't know what it is. It's big and blue, and it's taking up a big chunk of space. And if I delete it, I wonder if I delete it. You wish to remove... Oh, that's the iPhone. No. I guess because the iPhone's plugged in and it's selected, it's doing that. I looked at the news on the iPhone today. All right, we got rid of that. We'll just look at the title card for a while. Live 7 days a week, the morning show hosted by Tony Caravan, the King of Swing. That's going to confuse the crap out of people. But I am the King of Swing, and I'm the guy who had the longest running lounge show on the internet. So, none of this is not true. for some reason, this iPhone thing, I guess because it's plugged in, just doesn't want to go away. So I'm just gonna have to be plagued with that for the time being. As long as we can see most of Gilda's hair. The main thing is that skin. Look at it. Look at the body on her. She had one heck of a body. And you know this is Tony Caravan, and we love women. And we love women, especially beautiful women. But all women are beautiful, you know that. You know I'm talking to. I was just looking, while I was killing time, I was doing all kinds of goofy things. Like I was looking to see if there was a Facebook image from this morning of a sunrise. And there probably is by now, but, you know, at the time, I just got sidetracked. So anyway, I was looking at some of these suggestions of people you might know, right? And it's like, you know, the way that you might know. Well, if you know them, you know them, like now. But I found, you know, there's people it should be suggestions of people you used to know. Wasn't there some song about that, like I used to know or something? So I was looking at pictures of people I used to know. And, you know, and it's interesting to see how some people change and some people don't change, right? Or some people just look totally different, like really totally different. I mean, I guess I look totally different. But then again, I'm wearing reading glasses because I'm doing this show and all that stuff. But I don't know. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. But I mean totally. And, you know, some people lucked out. You know, some people look like, you know, they're happy and they found the right person, you know, in life. And I saw one person I know who was, you know, who was a drunkard. It looked like he had his hands folded in prayer. I mean, I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying, you know, I guess he found the AA program or something like that. Glad to see he's still alive. He used to drink like a fish, drank like I did. But, you know, different, you know, it's just, and then some people are just completely like I have no idea who that is. But I want to tell you a story, though, going back almost 25 to 30 years. The last class reunion I went to, high school class reunion, was about over 25. Yeah, it had to be over 25 years ago. And I remember I went to it in a limousine because at the time I was a general manager of a radio station and I had a client account with a limousine service who did advertising. And I partially traded, you know, it was like cash and trade. So I got, you know, I had a limousine at my disposal that I could use since they owed me money. And I just said, you know, I'll take part of it in limousine services. So I'm sitting outside of my high school class reunion, strategically parked so I could see as people enter into this meeting hall where they were having it, you know, some kind of hall they rented. And I'm looking out and it's like tinted windows, you know, stretch limousine thing. And I'm like, don't know them. I'm watching these people walk in. This is 25 years ago now. Okay, that's a big difference. And I'm going in it, and I'm like, I have no idea who that person is. Don't know them. So it's like some people, they just change, you know, within 10, 20 years after graduating. Other people don't. And I can recall meeting a couple of girls I knew in high school because I was in my hometown for a while. You know, but obviously we're at that point.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
You know, we get into the my story before we get into the whole thing. Besides, there's nobody watching right now live. This is like, it's pretty funny. And in fact, I forgot to click my complicated. How the heck are we? Or where the heck are we? Is what I just put on chat. And I don't know if you know what that means. When they asked there used to be a show called F Troop. And I got hit with a copyright hit for that. But let me just see if I could find. I just put F. Let's see what I got. Yeah, no such. Let's see. Space. I can't believe that. FT? No. I must have deleted them from my sound effects out of disgust. But I had the opening theme to F Troop. I don't know if you remember F Troop or not, but it was a funny show. And there was the Indians were the Hakawi Indians. And so what my chat, opening today was, where the heck are we? And so the running gag was the Hakawi Indians got their name because where the heck are we? Like we are the Hakawi, but the idea is where the heck are we? I had eggs and sausage with some, I think I chopped an onion and one of the peppers from my garden. It was like, so part garden food, part egg and sausage. I haven't had like sausage and egg breakfast in a while. And I thought that would be a fairly good base for these colas to keep my stomach from getting upset. Early morning carbonation type of thing. But it's not working. I got a bellyache. The morning show, and obviously, if I can find a place to put this mug up, you can see it's all the bubbles on there. It's cool. I told you it's 55 degrees outside. I had the back window open. So that's all caused by radiation. I've already put extra ice cubes in here. That's electromagnetic radiation coming off of my computer. And you're thinking, this guy needs a hat made out of tinfoil. You are mistaken, my friend. Well, anyway, look at Gilda. It's great. That's that scene. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the show today, really. Other than, my latest woman. I still have, I believe, so this is an image I've been hanging on to for a while. This is like some older art. Cocktails for two. And the gentleman Bondish, James Bondish type of Playboy, reader of Playboy in the 1960s, right? Playboy magazine type of male. And then the woman. That's a classic, That's a classic drawing. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I like it. My chair. Oy. Oy. The chair has gone down. It's almost like I'm on an angle today. That's another weird thing. So maybe the house, from all that construction, it's finally just like going. Try to lift a leg up. Get a leg up on this show. So the title of the show is, and I have to remind myself exactly, possible dystopian scenarios. All right. Possible dystopian scenarios. And I'm showing a picture of Gilda and and another classic, and a sketch here of classic, 60-ish, 60-esque, Playboy-esque type of drawing. It's funny, some people, sketch artists, just look at the thigh, that's pretty good for a sketch, it's almost a turn on, it's not almost, it is, she is pretty hot, that's goes without saying, without a doubt,
Funky.
Yeah, that's funky,
Okay.
So, possible dystopian scenarios. The reason I came up with that for today, and just to keep things, I want you to be able to see my book Codex, right? Which is right back here. See that we're still in that tinted 1800s look, which I think I'm going to stick with for a while. And the sea monkeys and rock flux, hey, if you can do it, you could do it. And the CPU image isn't going up, so whatever. But, codex, the old AM radio back there. And what you can't see, I could get rid of this for a second, is the transistor radio and the old phone and all that jazz. Tony Caravan, The Morning Show. 7 days a week. Nonstop. It's crazy. I've gone mad doing this thing. But I literally sat here for about an hour and a half while this updated. So and this is Catalina. So if you're a Mac person, this isn't the current operating system. So apparently there must be some this is 2 updates within 2 or 3 days, definitely within a week. And so apparently there must be some crazy hacking, stuff going on if they're doing this much for Catalina. Unless they're getting ready and hoping that people like me are going to upgrade to the latest operating system, but eventually I'll be 2 operating systems behind, and my computer won't be. Big Sur is the current one, I believe. I think it's Big Sur. I'm on, let's see, just check this. This always shoots the CPU way up, and it takes a while to even come up. I'm just trying to check where is it? There it goes. Yeah, Mac OS Catalina version 10.15 something. I'm not going to give you the decimal. Don't want to encourage any hackers who I'll have to reverse hack. Okay. But yeah, it's not the current OS for the Mac. And I because of the age of this Mac, which isn't that old, but it's old enough. And it's, even though I have 16 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage and dual quad processors, which is insane when you think about it, right? Because the computer that I use for the sound effects over here.
This is really funny. Really funny.
That thing is, and I'll just look at it just to give you an example of comparison. That computer, which is running Photoshop and, stuff like that, and all these audio programs and, even video editing programs, has just 6 gigabytes of RAM. And it's a PowerPC G5, that goes back to 2007 or something like that. So it's yet that one starts up faster, runs Photoshop, right? And you could watch a DVD on it and edit, make a DVD, edit video and the whole 9 yards. So what's the difference between this computer on one side, that I'm using, for all of my various sound effects?
Channel check. Left channel. Left channel.
Yeah. And this one that I'm looking at you on kind of sideways because I got my leg in the air. What's the difference? Why does this one take like forever to load, has problems, won't run all these apps, certain apps and stuff. And yet on this other older one, it doesn't, this, I don't even know what the memory is on there, but it's in gigabytes. It's not terabytes. It doesn't have dual quad processors. It's just got a PowerPC processor. And it's only got 6 gigs of RAM. This one has 16 gigs, 2 terabytes, and there's an SSD drive in this thing. And yet this thing is like, just so messed up. Look at that guy staring at that woman. That sketch. Yeah. It's great. The Rockflux logo. I hope you're watching this on a TV, whoever you are, I was thinking yesterday when I was watching the playback that was probably one of the reasons people don't watch this is, well, there's two, maybe 10 reasons, but 2 primary reasons is, one, I call it the morning show. And I think by the time most people see it, it's later in the day, so they have no interest in the morning show. Not to mention that, excuse me, there's so much competition in morning shows by name players. Not that I'm like not a name player. I'm just like one of those players that they just keep hiding my name. But, like I say, I still wrote 50 songs and and have working on my 10th book. So come on, give me a break. Half these guys who are so-called YouTube, millionaire name players, they haven't done any of that stuff. Maybe they have one book or something. It's kind of weird when you think about it, right? But I don't mind it. I kind of like the idea of being, the under the radar guy. Because so what? Because that way I could stay in the poverty line. That doesn't mean you shouldn't get one of my shirts. You don't know what you don't know, or everything you know is wrong. But still, all in all, because I could still I'm below the poverty line, and I have a little bit of a wiggle room there to stay below the poverty line, so I don't have to pay and file income taxes. That's my main reason. So for some reason, this iPhone is obsessed with coming on, and I don't know why. So let's see why. It should pop up soon. Let's see. There we go. And that is a picture of my cat. And it's telling us it's 6:39 and it's Thursday, July 2nd. Now it's going dark again. So let's get into the thing. And this is a camera, and that's a picture. Here's my close-up of my drink. Don't know what that noise was. And for those who are new to the show, this is the behind the scenes. See, there's keyboard here. You see those Christmas lights? I use Christmas lights to light up my keyboard. You should try that. It's a neat idea. Especially for people who use it, you don't have a lighted keyboard. And then over here, basically I stripped all of my equipment out, and all I'm using is this Furman power conditioner and a Behringer mixer. And then this is my second keyboard, and then this is the G5 I just talked about. That's the computer. And if you look through down the floor, you get a flash of the knee, and that's the G5 computer down there. And you can see through this That's the outside. So it's becoming light here. And there are two printers. There's a printer and there's a printer. And this is just a holy mess. Look at all the files and papers and stuff. Man, do I need to go through that stuff. And there's my Dr. Pepper and Faygo. That's the mixture I drink. And further, let's see if we can go over to see the cat, if he's still here. No, he's gone. He's usually on that mat. And you see I got like some tiki lights there in the distance. And that's a radiator and the air conditioner. That's the rest of this room. There's a WC. And off in the distance is the bar room through that door. And that's the rest of the room. But that's not why we were doing this. That's what I forgot to put up. So that was a scene. In fact, if I tilt this, let's say, there we go. Let's get rid of the daily image, the bonus image. I think it's the bonus image, yeah. This was the scene of me drinking. There's my Zippo lighter, a cigar, the beer in the mug, the expensive candle to keep the smell of cigar from overtaking the house, and a little note and notepads where I make notes and lists of songs. That was that. And this was a sandwich from the other day. These things need to be deleted. But I was looking at the news, and I hesitate doing this, and I don't really want to do it, and I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to turn this off. Right? In fact, I'm going to totally turn it. This says it. The top says it's 100% charged, and the bottom says it's like 80% charged. So I don't know if this thing's dying out or not, but I just disconnected it completely, absolutely. So I shouldn't be getting anything from it. Image 4. That's what it's listed as. Yeah. But remember that we still love her, but we're more in love with her right now. So, sometimes love can be fickle. So that's my current love. Anyway, possible scenarios, all right, amidst pictures of beautiful women. Image 4, outdoors, daily image, bonus image, all right. Title card, Gilda. It's insane. Live 7 days a week, the morning show, hosted by Tony Caravan, the king of swing. Well, people should know that I'm not going to be playing swing music or anything weird like that because YouTube doesn't allow that sort of thing. In fact, earlier I was going to play Name That Tune because I found, this is in the rock vein. So this is like totally a freak somebody out who came here for swing. But like name this song in like, less than in a few seconds, because if it's only a few seconds, they don't get you a copyright strike. You know what song that is? Or how about this one? That's easy. That's easy. These are all like 1 second. They don't give you a copyright strike on like 1 second. That's easy too. Real easy. That's fairly easy if you're a Alice Cooper fan. But that's easy too. You got to be a Steely fan. Show business kid. Sorry for giving him away. That's dead giveaway. Easy. Pretty easy if you liked mellow music from that time of, you know. Man, I wish I could play that whole song. But I can't. So, yeah. I know, it's disgusting. What are we going to do about it? So, here we are. In this, I was going to show you the news from the, like I said, I was killing an hour and a half while my Mac is doing some kind of update. Security update. What's going on, right? The Ruskies, right? It's not them. No, if people only knew the truth about half that stuff, you can't really talk about it, because it's the unspeakable, it's verboten, so. But it was the same with the news. So I just thought, okay, I'm just going to flip through the news real quick. And it was absurdity. First of all, they're still talking about this thing that you can't talk about. But I don't know why they're allowed to talk about it and report about it. It's like, let it go away. And, and for some reason, there are certain people that can get away with talking about it. And those people and those shows have come out with such unbelievable, contradictory, factual, information in the past, couple of weeks that it's mind-boggling, right? One friend forwarded me a video that just was insane, and I forwarded to another friend, and his response was just wow. I mean, it's crazy, literally. I mean, this is insane. I mean, it really is. I mean, we may as well. So, possible dystopian scenarios. I think it's time we need to talk about that. All right? And we'll always have Gilda with us. So don't worry about that. And, I guess we could grow our sea monkeys and have them as pets. Look at me. Look at my face. And I'm talking about, because I was looking, I was doing everything I could in an hour and a half is a very long time to kill, right? I did go out and feed the birds. It was great. Every one of my motion detector lights went on in succession. It was beautiful. I love it when a plan comes together. And the plants that the intruders ripped out, I have an alarm now that nobody's getting in, but they're growing back, really fast and nicer. Nice ferns. I love ferns. I like all plants. I like all women of the world. There's a line from one of those songs. I like women. I like all the women of the world. I like my yard to be completely kind of a tunnel of love. I like it to be a tunnel of green, right? and surrounded by it. So I have all this, my yard is this long, thin tunnels just surrounded with green and growth. And then there at the very end, the patio where I sit in my lounge chair and sun. And I've got my little mini greenhouse that's the TARDIS, if you don't know what that is. And then I've got magic marker mark on my hand. I had to make a note in my 2021 gardening record. Remember, I keep notes, physical notes from year to year of growing and weather and stuff like that. And I've been doing this for a long time, and many of us have been doing this to contradict the false numbers that NOAA and the climate crisis people try to put out. Like, they actually change numbers on websites and and stuff like that. And it's weird. Yeah, we're in that. So, possible dystopian scenarios. Okay, one, the unspeakable thing is going to continue into next year. All right. And as that happens, society will just fall further apart. There's over 6.5 million people in the U.S. currently unemployed. That's like an official number. But there's 151 million people employed. And there's 326 million people in the U.S. What's wrong with that number? So, and the birth rate was supposedly down, right? And people are living pretty long. And not, and 97 to 99% of the people didn't die from that unspeakable thing. So they can't say that, So the question is less than, when you look at the children and then retirees. So my belief is that there's about 50 million. Well, technically there are 170 million people in the U.S. who don't work. Right? That's just out of government, Department of Labor statistics. I got that from the Department of Labor. And the 6.5 million thing, that's from the Department of Labor statistics. These are just factual numbers the government has issued. And so, but in reality, remember, that doesn't include these people who are receiving money and stuff and all of that jazz, right? Because there's all these, they're still getting money. Some people are still getting money through this whole lot, this endless crazy thing, it just won't go away. Well, it went away, but they're pretending it did, and then they're coming up with new stuff. So here's the possible dystopian scenarios. The billionaires are all pretty much on their way, are all like running. So there was a big meeting just down in Cancun not too long ago of these people who are try to set up, who assist you, and it's all about dual citizenship and I guess tri-citizenship. So these people who have, it's like at one time it was considered a tax shelter, to go to these other countries, But now it's like more than a tax shelter. It's they have citizenship there. They buy property and land in those countries, and so they have lower taxes, a place to park their money to keep it safe, and a place to escape to, as the fit hits the shan, which it is already. Now the recent recreation of the welfare state, and that was hidden under, and I've been talking about this every day, and we have to keep talking about it. Reading glasses. I don't even want to wear them, but if I don't, I can't see a gosh darn thing. Darn dang it. So they call it the child tax credit, but it's really a payment. It's not a tax credit. It's not a deduction from a tax form because it's targeted to poverty families who don't pay taxes. And I was trying to explain that to somebody. They said, no, this is a tax credit. I said, no, it's a payment. The payments already went out. I'm saying this every day because I have so few viewers, and different people need to hear this. No, they already sent out, like in one state that I received a notification, an email from a senator, state senator. The state senator. And he said they already sent out $400 some bucks to these families. And then it's going to be somewhere between $250 to $300 per child, depending on their age. I think up to 5, it's $300 a pop. So you could imagine that once this was announced and as this gets pushed through, there are 9 months from now, a year from now, there's going to be a population explosion in the U.S., the likes of which you've never seen. Right? $300 for a baby. Because the kid in poverty doesn't need the money. So the parents are all going to have another kid or two. So you watch that. So, what's the number of people living in the poverty level that are going to get this $300 per child? Now, you got to figure for the average family in poverty has more children than the so-called professionals who are putting off are either having no children at all or are putting off getting a child, right? Or maybe even may adopt or something like that till later in life. But in poverty, people are, this isn't a statement. This isn't some kind of negative, weird statement. This is just a statement of fact. Is that these families, most of these families have like at least 3 children. So you're talking about if you've got 3 kids under the age of 5, that's $900 a month cash. And remember, it's not going to raise a child out of poverty. It's not even going to raise the family out of the poverty level. See, $900 a month won't do that. They'll still be just below the poverty line. So what's going to happen is, remember, they already have 100% free health care. They have EBT, which is, electronic benefits transfer, formerly known as food stamps. So the kids are fed. Their families are fed well. All right. Free health care, free food, free housing, Section 8 housing or housing assistance, free daycare. They get a free cell phone. Right. So the thing, so some people look at, it's a couple $100, $300, $900, that's nothing. Well, it's nothing if you have to pay bills. But if you don't have to pay for your house, your health insurance, your food, your cell phone service and cell phone, and your child's books and, all that stuff, transportation and all those other things, there's a whole litany of things you get when you're on poverty, below the poverty level. So this is a big cash payout to the people in the poverty level with the condition, the caveat, that they get paid per child. So you don't think that there's like an awful lot of like the hoochie coochie going on right now? Yeah. And you watch 9-10 months from now, right? The population of the U.S. is going to like jump. Yeah. So they're saying we have 326 million officially now. You'll see it jump it's going to jump by like 10 million people at least, or more. Right? And so, yeah, and like I say, and these people will, as long as if they have 3 children, some people have more, but they'll still be at the poverty level. And so that's just cash to spend on whatever they want to spend it on. Because it's not money, it's not a child tax break. It's like these things they do, and they're so good at it. At like the way what they call them, and it's like the name they give the thing, and then the way and then the phraseology afterwards, they're descriptive of like it's going to raise children out of poverty. But when in fact all it is a payment to parents. All right, it's the reinvention of, under the Clinton administration, he pretty much pulled in the reins on the welfare state. Johnson like let it loose, right? And we had the welfare state, and that went on for a long time. And then under Clinton, which is hard to believe, because that's why I say this isn't partisan. People think Democrat, Republican. It's a corporatocracy. I'm opening up some Rolaids right now. But yeah, it's interesting to see that. So it's the recreation. It's the first step of the Great Reset. I'm going to put this down while I do this. So the first step of the Great Reset is to recreate the welfare state. So as I've said before, and I will say it again, if you're a single mom working as a waitress, standing on your feet all day, right? And you're not getting health, full health benefits, I mean, maybe you're in the poverty level, maybe you're not. But if you're filing taxes or something like that, because you have to pay rent, you have a job, you're paying rent, you probably have to pay co-pays on health care and stuff like that. Rolade. My teeth are so bad, I'm afraid to bite into these things. My teeth are very fragile, but they're holding together. I'm not sponsored by it, but I've been using this xylitol toothpaste and xylitol gum. I hope this helps because I'm kind of sick in my stomach. Of course, it could because the guy who delivered my eggs the other day was like 2 hours late. Maybe the eggs went bad in his car. We'll just have to play it by ear and see how it goes. 48 minutes into the show. It's 7:04 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the former United States, and we're talking about possible dystopian scenarios in the coming 3 months, 6 months to a year. I'm sorry for chewing these things. Rolade. Not sponsored by them. They seem to help. I mean, not yet, but I mean, in previous times. So it's kind of cold in here too. I'm not against it because it's the former United States. And so the pacification of the poor to keep them from doing what's going on in South Africa, where looting is widespread, destruction, people are on the streets shooting at each other. You know, it's basically like a failed state in a sense. It's not being reported at all. I mean, in major media. I mean, it's slightly. I didn't see it in anything in the news. I was flipping through on my iPhone news thing today at all. And I'm sure if they do, it'll be spun, you know, in a certain way. Because it's like a color issue. See, they don't know what to do, you know, in a country where you have the majority of people are so-called people of color. It's not a color issue because it's just the country's, you know, that's like, you know, looking at a Latin American country and you've got, you know, the majority of people are Latinos. So, you know, what are you going to say, you know, if there's some kind of unrest there or something crazy going on, it's going to be, you know, they're not going to, you know, everyone on camera would basically be Latino. And it's the same with like what's going on in South Africa. You know, the majority of the population has been, you know, are black. And so, you know, they don't want to show the camera of a bunch of black people doing this because that goes against the narrative in the U.S. This isn't something where I'm trying to get into some color thing. This is just the reality of how people have agendas and they don't want to report on anything that would like go against a certain agenda. So the South African story, even though it is politically based, is not being covered because of fear of what they used to call, they're not calling it that much, but a year or so ago, the word optics was a big word. They just don't want the optics to confuse people, see? But yeah, it's not really about color. It just so happens that a majority of people there are of a certain color. Just the whole concept of that's ridiculous to begin with anyway. So, anyway, to get back here to the former United States, and it is the former United States, okay? That's another thing that people just have to accept. Today's one of those shows that I guess is a little bit serious side, you know, conversation. I don't know. You know, I mean, I tried to start out with a, you know.
This is really funny. Really.
You know, and showing the, you know, the girls, Gilda. But, you know, there's a thing that's like, what am I going to do? You know? You know, these are the issues of the day. And so, you know, you got to talk about them. This is how I'm trying to relieve my stomach discomfort. This is a live show like no other. You know, it looks like no other. The colorization is like no other. I was broadcasting in black and white for a couple of weeks. Now I'm into this really kind of interesting tinting, which I like. It's interesting because it's different. Other people don't do this stuff. You know, they got these bright studio lights and all this kind of weird stuff. Of course, a lot of them aren't broadcasting also in the morning. But now, you can still have fun, you know. The reason I have the cocktail cartoonish picture up is that, you know, everything about that is everything I used to like about the U.S., you know? I'm sorry. you know. But that's just the way it is, you know. And, you know, fun, just fun, you know. The game of life, living and having fun, cocktails and all that stuff. Even though, you know, alcohol is poisonous to your system technically, you know. It's like I can't drink as well as I used to drink when I was younger. But what I'm trying to get at is that, you know, you have to, I keep stressing this point, and sometimes it comes up later in the show. So I'm trying to bring it in early on because I know 2 hours is a long time and very few people make it to the end of my shows. And that's usually where I put everything together. Like it all falls together in the last, you know, 20 minutes or half hour of the show is usually like whatever. And I've had people say, well, maybe you should like edit portions and have like clips and stuff. And it's like, look, man, I'm demonetized. I don't make money. People don't even buy my shirts or any of my stuff. So it's like, you know, I'm not going to work at this all day long. Today's supposed to be sunny and in the 70s, means it's not going to be like hot, very humid and super hot, but it's still going to be nice. Probably get up to 80 on my patio in the backyard. But I intend to be out there laying on my lounge chair getting some sun. Not to mention this is good tomato weather. And so I've got to keep an eye on the tomato plants, and I'll probably be yanking a bunch of tomatoes off of there today. I'm already getting to the point now where I've got more tomatoes ripening than I could possibly eat. So I like to make and I still have lettuce growing. And the cooler weather is good for lettuce too. That'll hold back from bolting, which means going to seed. And so, in fact, I might still have a picture here. I'm not sure. Yeah. Let's get rid of the bonus image for a second. So like that pile of lettuce and that tomato and those tomatoes you see sliced in that image are from my backyard. I showed this picture yesterday. And I prefer taking stuff like that and putting it on like a wrap or a tortilla type of thing. Like even today, this morning, I made the sausage, eggs, and whatnot. It was like a breakfast burrito. You know, that's how I made it. So, but I've got so much lettuce growing and so many tomatoes that today I'm just going to have to like make like a big salad, you know. It's just going to have to be like the big salad, the big lunch, the meal of the day. Because I've got to consume all this stuff. I mean, there's this, you know, I can give some things away, but it's not like I'm in this, it's not the area that I'm in, you know, is not, I don't have like a lot of people that I, you know, can give these things to. So, you know, I'm stuck with it. It's either that or throw it in the compost pile. And there's another reason why I'm glad they're giving, because I'm living at just below the poverty level myself, but I don't have any kids, so I'm not getting any of that cash. But the people in his neighborhood are. And the idea of living in somewhat poverty stricken areas, I wouldn't say stricken, just that they've always been, is one of those things where, you know, it's a pacification thing. You know, it's more, you know, things are a lot more peaceful when people are like given free money, right? Because it's like, it's Party City, you know? It's just the way it is. And so, you know, people are, you know, that's the real reason the government is doing this thing. That's the part that nobody understands. So on the one side, you have the billionaires who are planning their escape so they could preserve their wealth, right? Because they have no allegiance to the former United States, they had allegiance to what America used to stand for and all that stuff. The republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I mean, you know that none of that's true, right, anymore. Liberty and justice for all. We don't have that. So, the wealthy are leaving. The poor are being pacified so they don't take to the streets. And everyone in the middle, I wouldn't call them the middle class, everyone in the middle is being deceived by the media. So I said this in the 90s and nobody listened. Nobody listened to me. I mean, literally nobody. I've written 9 books already. But I said, you either going into the 2000s, into the 21st century, I said, you have a choice. You're either going to be rich or poor. There's no in between, and you don't want to be in between. So you've got a chance, and that was just prior to the dot-com revolution, and there was a lot of opportunity then, right, to make money if you were smart enough to make it and then get out, This is the problem with people, even with the stock market right now. A lot of people are talking. Same with Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's up to like 32,000 today or yesterday. Stock market's in 34 or 30, somewhere up there, 32, 34. Interesting, those numbers are around the same, but I mean, one's in dollars, one's in, points, whatever. So there, so it looks, this is the whole analogy I give about you don't, when the music stops, you don't want to be left without a chair. And so right now the music's playing and it's your favorite song. And so you're just looking and you're seeing, 32,000 Bitcoin, 30-some thousand stock market, I got in when it was only 20, right? I'm making, it's going to go up. It went up 200 yesterday. It went up 500 points the other day, right? But they forget, like with Bitcoin, was up to 60. It was over 60,000. So it's almost cut itself in half. But then it went lower, but now it's like up a little bit. And that was because people sold and bought. And that's how we have this. That's why right now there's a property boon, all right? Real estate is selling like hotcakes. People are buying real estate all over the U.S. like sight unseen. They're just going on to one of these online real estate sites, looking at some pictures and making a cash offer. Because they're like Bitcoin millionaires or stock market millionaires. They're people that just made this money out of thin air, basically. So they want to put it in hard goods. But see, there's a problem with doing that in the U.S., and that's why there's this other group of people that are trying to do this dual citizenship thing and park their money offshore and stuff. Government doesn't like this kind of thing at all, but, what are they going to do, right? As of right now, they're not doing anything about it, So, yeah, taxes, if you buy these houses, so say you decide to cash in $1 million, 1.2 million in Bitcoin, or $1.2 million you made on stocks, and you purchase a piece of property. Well, what you have to understand is the way the government's going to get you is going to get you with real estate taxes. They're going to raise real estate taxes. See, the price of $1 million home, $1 million and up home, so the taxes, even if you buy it with cash, for cash and have no mortgage, you're going to find that the taxes and insurance are going to be as high as what a mortgage might have been. That's the plan. That's one of the possible scenarios, dystopian scenarios, where they're going to where they're suckering people in with this real estate market, boom, So you got to watch that. Now, conversely, me, like I say all the time, my mortgage, taxes, and insurance are under $200 a month. And I live in a neighborhood that they'd have a hard time raising real estate taxes here, right? There's no justification for it, right? The property values just aren't that high, even in this real estate market. I mean, I'm sure there's some people around here that could probably sell their house for more than they could have a year or two ago. But all that said, it's not that much more. It's not lucrative like it is in many parts of the country. In fact, most parts of the country, it's lucrative. So you have to watch that, so if you're one of those people, that have made a fortune on Bitcoin or the stock market, you have to understand that the market's will crash, and that the Federal Reserve, the central bankers, are trying to come out with a coin themselves, like their own. They're into the blockchain technology, and they want to come out with some kind of crypto. And when they switch to crypto, it'll be almost as big of an event as in the 70s when we went off the gold standard. But like one guy was saying, I'm saying a lot of stuff. You got to, if you're not into finances, you don't know all this stuff. But the central banks and some of the governments have been buying up, have a lot of gold. So the idea is that they're not going to let gold crash because they own a lot of gold. And it's the same with silver. The price of silver, while it's been higher, the price of silver is somewhere in the high 20s right now. But that's like that's over double what it was worth like a year or so ago. So you could have doubled your money if you invested in silver. You literally bought silver. So gold and silver, even though they're rocks, right? If you think about it, they're just rocks. It's just stuff from the ground. They're somewhat safe havens for the time being. Silver's hard to get right now because it's scarce. See, not only do people want to buy silver as a haven for their money, for some reason, I just had like no data, going to YouTube. I don't know what this thing about silver is. I know this might be boring. I don't want to bore you, but, I guess in some people's minds.
This is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
No.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
This is really funny. Really funny.
Wake up, wake up.
Good morning.
Let's try to keep this thing going. I'm sorry if I seem down, it's a downbeat thing. It's like, I guess I'll watch this and I'll fall asleep in my chair watching the playback. I feel like I've been doing that. But I'm trying to explain something that's very important to you that you're not going to get on the nightly news. Silver is also used in manufacturing and in technology and stuff, so that there's a double demand for silver. So not only do people trying to grab silver, bars, silver coins, right? Invest in silver futures and all that stuff. But if you're going to get silver, you want to physically own silver. It's the same with gold. If you want to have gold, you want to physically own like a gold coin. Okay. You know, that kind of thing. Same with silver. You want a silver dollar, right? Or something, or $50, whatever. But there's other uses for silver. There's actually other uses for gold, too. Gold is used in a lot of, is a very good conductor and is used in various connections. Used to be like used in phones and everything, you know, like the wires that, you know, everything would be like kind of gold tipped, you know. I was avoiding drinking this because my stomach was upset, but I think those Rolaids are starting to help. And let's just see. It's like comes and goes. I shouldn't do this. This is one of those things I shouldn't be doing. It's just like you know, I don't know. It's a strange thing. I just got into the habit of like the morning show, you know, mug and, you know, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why I did it and continue to do it. It's kind of goofy. So be that as it may, that, you know, we're talking. So if the billionaires are going to escape, right? If the Fed is going to come up with its own cryptocurrency, which means that, and whether or not they do that or not, that's not assured. But either way, the more people cash out of the various cryptocurrencies and the stock market, it's basically setting up the crash. Now you might say, well, why hasn't it crashed? You know, well, it has crashed. Like I say, Bitcoin is cut in half right now, but it's inching its way back up because people are investing in it because they see and they hear certain people talking about this potential, right? Some people think Bitcoin's going to go up to $100,000. I've heard people tell me that directly, but it's not. It's not. So, and the same with the market. Well, the market will go up forever because you got that plunge protection team thing that Alan Greenspan set up in, you know, back in was it the 80s or when did he do that? So in other words, if the stock market looks like it's getting down too low, they come in and they just like, they prop it up because they could, in the old days, they printed money. That's what they used to call it. But nowadays, it's like I say, it's just a transfer of on digital ledgers, overnight transfer of funds. But it's just basically central banks, you know, just making these, putting these figures on ledgers, right? You know, it's the same with Bitcoin if you think about it. I mean, there's no value there, right? It's an equation. You know, people have gotten Bitcoin. An equation is solved, and suddenly a Bitcoin is created. You know, there's no. It's like, you know, it's just as much as fiat currency is the dollar. You know, in a sense. You know, it's all imagined. It's all what you believe it to be, right? Perception is reality in these instances. So anyway, that's the boring talk about one, you know, possible dystopian scenarios. So it seems to me that in the near future, the short term at least, and the short term being a year or so, the poverty level, the poor in the U.S. are pretty much going to be pacified because they're going to be getting money consistently every month, cash money every month, on top of their free service. So the welfare state begins again. And if you can remember, those old enough to remember the 70s and into the 80s, that there was pretty much, that was a lot of peace and love and classic R&B and, you know, time. There really wasn't a lot of unrest. You know, it was post-civil rights movement, civil rights era. Civil rights movement was a success, just like the feminist movement was a success. I tell people that all the time. It's just that they're trying to revise history and pretend that didn't happen, but it did happen, you know? And so it was like, you know, from the summer of love on forward, you know, you ended up and the Vietnam War ended and stuff. And it was like peace and love and disco, you know, basically. That's what it was like, the end of the 70s into the 80s, you know. And then you had like the British type of punk rock type of thing coming. But that was more their problem than our problem in the former United States. And so that was exported to the U.S. and and punk rock crashed and burned pretty much. It became niche. And so in the 80s, you ended up having like hair metal and MTV, and it was like glam rock, right? Materialist, you know, Madonna, Material Girl. And it was like materialism took over, right? The hippies became yuppies. And that show 30-something, you know, because the hippies were now 30-something with families, and they were like getting jobs on Wall Street, or they were, you know, lawyers in love, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, this is the real history of the United States, right? And then by the end of the 80s, you know, then the Cold War ended, finally. And, you know, and then you had the Mac, the desktop publishing, the whole new 9 yards. And then you had, but you still had then you had the Seattle sound and Kurt Cobain and stuff, and this, you know, this kind of heroin based, like, you know, try to pull things down type of music, right? Society's messed up. That was their revolution against the yuppies, so to speak. And then the 90s came along, you know, and that's a whole new, and that's, you know, that was, you know, that was a weird, it was a good, the best of times and the worst of times. Depends on how you looked at it. But I like the 90s a lot, but, you know, then it culminated after Y2K, you know, and then the dot-com crash, and then the following year you had 9/11. So it was like this weird thing coming into the 21st century was crazy, you know. And so for the past 20 years, it's just been like, you know, really, it's been... This is insane. This is insane. You know, it's a big weird loop. And, you know, some people have made a ton of money, you know, on the markets, but a lot of people lost everything in like 2008 when you had the last real estate crash. So, you know, that's from a monetary, what I'm talking about, that's the possible dystopian scenario from a monetary standpoint. All right, materialistic monetary standpoint. But the idea is like, okay, what about quality of life? All right. You know, when you think of like the Mad Max world, right? I just watched another movie. It was like part 2 of some dystopian movie where there were these alien creatures that didn't have eyes or something, but they can hear you. It was called, you know, something about quiet or something weird like that. That woman Blunt was in it. I forget her first name. Something Blunt. She's got a nice body, speaking of. Though in that movie, she's not, you know, she's like completely covered up. But this idea, these other dystopian scenarios that are non-monetary, you know, more based on just people going wacko, right? And so, I mean, they may have originally had their roots in some kind of monetary crash, but they weren't, ultimately that wasn't it anymore. It was just insanity, just dystopian nightmare, And so, so it became.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
So what happens, so another possible dystopian scenario is that, see, the ruling elite, they know all of this. They meet at Davos. They have meetings all the time and discuss this. They meet in D.C., Washington, politicians. This is what they talk about. It's all a big corporatocracy. They're very concerned. And, from their standpoint, it is about, money and power. But it's also about their own personal security. That's why they're fortifying all these government buildings and creating this authoritarian, totalitarian, militaristic state, right? That's for their own preservation, because when you have a couple of thousand ruling elite and you have 326 million people that you have to rule over, that's like, that's a recipe for disaster if the people ever decided to stop watching CNN and Fox and MSNBC and ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, and all the other, propaganda, crazy, lying, bastards, right? Because, I mean, it's just nuts. It's the stuff they're saying on these news stations. And the same with the papers, radio, etc. So they've got this first step of the Great Reset was to give this money to people in poverty and basically put a value on a child. So a child is worth somewhere between, depending on their age, is worth $250 to $300 a month. So if you have a kid, it's $3,600. There's a $3,600 a year price tag. That kid's worth $3,600 a year. People don't look at it that way, but that's what the ruling elite have decided. All right, we'll pay $3,600 a year for that kid. Pay you, and that's that. And then they're hoping that will pacify the poor, and keep people, just from rioting, right, or getting angry, right, and that will quell and squash like the BLM movement and stuff like that. See, because you have to understand, the people in power, they pretend as if they're like into all of this, these issues of the day, so to speak. But they're really not. They just use the stuff for politics and hold on to power, right? It's about power and greed, I mean, it's always been that way. That's what the ruling elite is. They just want to keep their, their power and money. Their yachts, their mansions, their jets and stuff. That's their lifestyle. Lifestyle of the rich and famous. It's always been that way. It's not new. There's nothing new under the sun. Right. So so they feel, okay, we can pacify these people that they really don't care about by paying them, giving them money. That'll shut them up, keep them settled. But what do they do about everybody in between? Somebody who makes, somewhere from, I don't know, $12,000. I think that's like the poverty levels, like something only like $12,000 or something. It's kind of low threshold. So from 12 or whatever it is to $1 million or something. What do you do with all those people in between? Well, most of them have lost their jobs and will lose their jobs. There are no jobs for them. You know, they've either been taken over by, some kind of technology, whether it's some robotic technology, for manufacturing jobs, whether it's some algorithmic technology for customer service and over the phone type jobs, whether it's just machinery, computer technology, machinery, kiosks type of thing for fast food restaurants and stuff like that. And then everything's delivered now. I mean, you order online, so you eliminate the need for an order taker. All right. So that more and more stores are having more and more automated checkout, areas. So you check yourself out. So it eliminates clerks and cashiers. And then you're having delivery. And that is not a lot of jobs. It's some jobs, but it's not a lot. And those type of jobs are people don't keep those jobs. And that's why they're trying to create like self-driving cars, or Amazon tries to have, in some areas has tested these drones to deliver your Amazon package and stuff. But that won't happen in most parts of the U.S. It just, both the drones and the self-driving cars aren't practical in most rural areas. You see? Because they're just not structured in such a way that you can, that no matter how many sensors you have, that those things could safely do the things they do, or navigate, or figure out where these places are. That's why Amazon relies so much on the postal system. I mean, the postal system for over a century, has developed this incredible network of knowing where everyone lives, basically, right? And so Amazon's tied into that and has this sweet deal where they pay next to nothing, and they can get a package to some rural delivery person, right? So the postal service will still be a part, of that, but it's still a matter of like, you can't have self-driving cars going down these side, I mean, like where I live, like the alleyway behind me, you can't even personally navigate this one corner to get to round the corner to get into the alley. It's just like, and I see that all over the place. Everything's not designed like in cities where they're like, they're designed, they're laid out. There's logic to it, architectural, city planning, that sort of thing. Most rural areas and even suburbs, even though developments were planned, are not basically structured. They expanded, they grew. It's like weeds growing, a good analogy. It's like weeds growing, or any growth area left unchecked. A hedge, I know from gardening, if you get a week of rain and then sunshine, so just in 10 days, if you don't keep on top of something, it'll get to a point where the overgrowth has gotten out of control. And it would require this like major Herculean effort to somehow, make sense of it all. Yeah. I mean, to the point of where it's sometimes halfway through the year. In fact, it's gotten that way now in some parts of my garden, particularly like where I've grown my herbs and stuff, that it's just, I'm just letting them be, you know, because they're flowering to seed. Things like oregano and stuff are like gone to these little fluffy, flowery type of things that are on there that attract all the honeybees, and they're just filled with bees right now. So there's no way I'm going to go in there and start chopping them down and trying to clean up and organize that area, and they're just like spreading all over. And I do want the honeybees in because I want them to pollinate my tomato plants and hopefully squash and zucchini and jalapeno peppers and banana peppers, you know, things like that. So I'm not going to disturb this area, but it's just overwhelmed with bees and growth and craziness. And it just happened because we had like just a lot of rain and I wasn't on top of it, and I should have just been trimming them down. And maybe in retrospect, it's just as well because of the bees. And that's what happens. That's urban sprawl is another word they call that, you know. It just, you know, people just keep building, but it's not there's no coordination. You know, that's another problem why they're not the Build Back Better or Save America, you know, and this idea of them having infrastructure, you know, repairs and stuff. It's not really doable because between sprawl and things just being built upon things over hundreds of years, roads laid over, pipes, you know, they don't know what's underneath the ground. On my street alone, like I say, this is one street in one city, you know, and think about how many cities there are in a state and then times that by 50 states. And then we're not even talking about bridges and rail lines and all this other kind of stuff. You know, this is just fixing like sewer and water pipes and gas lines and, you know, things of that nature. Not to mention the power grids, you know, and the transformers and all these high tension wires and stuff. So it's interesting to hear these politicians talk, but this is the other dystopian scenario, is a grid down situation that we're heading towards. They're not going to be able to fix the infrastructure of this country. It's a pipe dream. You could throw all the money in the world you want to, but on my street alone, they've dug down, reopened the street like 3 times in the same areas. You know, and these are major contracting firms with all the equipment, right? You know, I mean, you know, high-end, multi-million-dollar, you know, major contracting corporations, right? And they must be doing this citywide, but I'm seeing what's on my street alone. They're here every day, and it's a nightmare. So it's just not doable. They're going to attempt it. But we're talking about an endless project that's just not going to be there in time. It's not going to be, in other words, it's a race against time, but they're already so far behind their time that they're not going to make it before major grid down situations, major rail and bridge failures, highway, you know, and things of that nature. It's just not doable. That's why you're seeing, you know, because part of infrastructure is also things like dams and levees and stuff. I was watching, because I pay attention to foreign news, you know, because I don't watch the U.S. news. I don't, you know, that stuff. And I'll catch on YouTube, you know, stories. And I was watching a guy from Britain who was trying to explain about the floods in Germany and that have gone over into China. China has a big flood problem now. In fact, one of their major dams in China has got some problems. But the Chinese, you know, they just the government, the communist Chinese, not the Chinese people, they lie about everything and they hide everything. It's one big secret, But they've got, footage comes out because people have smartphones and they're able to figure stuff out and, sneak this footage out. And there's floods. Yeah, these things have been breaking. So, this guy was saying, like, you have Germany, one of the most, from an engineering standpoint, one of the most advanced civilizations, cultures, and wealthiest countries in Europe, right? I mean, let's face it, everyone knows German engineering is superior to anything in the world, basically, right? It's always been that way, I mean, that's part of the culture of, and so that generation after generation have, been brought up in this environment and trained and whatever, apprenticed, however, so that this knowledge, German engineering, has always been far superior to other countries. It's just the way it is, and so when you think of that, and you could look at, it was like in the 60s and the 70s where Japan, where the Japanese were the best at miniaturization of, of transistors and things like that. It wasn't the U.S., You could see behind me here, that's a transistor radio from like the 60s, and the concept, like prior to that, here, this thing, which is, you can't see it, extends over, that's an AM radio, tube radio, right? From an American type of company. And it was the Japanese that were putting out the transistors, you see? It's important to understand history, right? And how things work. And different countries have pursued different things. It's nothing to say about people or anything like that. It's a matter of the direction a country goes. Now, we have Silicon Valley and venture capitalists and all that kind of thing, and we have the stock market in New York and finance and all that. That's the route that the U.S. went, okay? So different countries do different things, okay? It's just the way it is. And the people there are basically brought up in that environment, and that's their culture. And what this guy was trying to explain was that why in one of the most sophisticated cultures with the best engineering around was this allowed to happen in Germany? Because, granted, they always like to say it's the flood of the century or the worst thing in decades or whatever. That doesn't matter. That's not an excuse, That's like in hurricane prone areas, right? Where when they build back, they don't put houses on pylons, or they just build stick homes instead of like rounded or dome shaped things that basically can withstand like 400-mile-an-hour winds. And this has been proven time and time again, but it's just not done. Instead, they end up building back, and it's like, build back better. This is their mentality. But they don't build back better. They just build back stick buildings that straight ahead winds or hurricanes are just going to huff and puff and blow the house down like the Three Little Pigs. And it's been proven there have been guys who have built their houses back, again, on the coast, Gulf Coast, that have been rounded, and that, this is aerodynamics, and then the wind hits, it's not hitting a flat surface, right? And putting all that pressure, the wind is, you see, it's like the dome home. In areas like that, they should have dome homes. And if you've ever haven't seen a dome home, and they're fairly inexpensive to build, and there's all kinds of ways of building dome homes. You could build dome homes with poured concrete, or you could build dome homes out of wood and, whatever, molded this, that, the other. But the idea is that the wind is going to is going to pass over it, around it, And so we don't do that. And so the idea is the same with levees. They'll send the Army Corps of Engineers down, and they'll just take the levees, down in New Orleans after the last time we had that disaster down there. And instead of like re-engineering, right, they just basically, shored up and repaired the levees, because this was like a storm of the century or something. And so there's this idea. It happens along the Mississippi all the time. Like every so many decades, the Mississippi floods. And I could recall, people have short memories, but I remember all this stuff because this is the kind of stuff I'm interested in, the real life, and I pay attention to that kind of stuff. I don't care about superfluous things, like somebody's batting average or something. That never, things like that never appealed to me. It's like, I could watch a game for the sake of the game, right? But I don't care about all this like superfluous things that change from time to time. It's like the Super Bowl. It doesn't interest me because, I think it's absurd. Okay, so now you have to start all over again. It's like, what did you really win? A trophy? Temporary trophy. It's like the Stanley Cup gets passed back and forth. Some people hate when I say that stuff, but it's like, what did you win? Right? So the idea is that you have to be more creative. And this guy was just saying he was surprised that with the level of German engineering, and he was being complimentary to Germany, that this would have been allowed to happen. So some, was saying, while it's tragic, and it is tragic, and he wasn't lessening the tragedy of the situation by any means, and I'm not by any means either, saying that as a civilization, Western civilization in general, we've kind of let our guard down. We're not, we've become too complacent, We figured, we've built these great things, we've had these great achievements, and we could just rest on our laurels. Instead of and saying, maybe in 100 years something could. It's like, no, that's unacceptable. That's not the way. This is this kind of self-centered thinking we have as and why Western civilization is falling. And so this example of this mass destruction through these floods and these other events has nothing to do with climate crisis or anything like that. The sun is the source of climate, and there are cycles of the sun and cycles of climate on this planet, another thing that revisionists refuse to look at. And so it's our lack of caring about the next generation that put us in this situation where we're seeing this stuff happen worldwide. And it's also the corporate involvement, this corporatocracy and this organized crime syndicate that's above it, this Davos set, that, that allow corners to be cut and are more worried about their own profitability of their corporation than the integrity of the structures or whatever it is that they're being paid to do. Right? It's the same with medicine and things like that. It's unacceptable that we don't have, we still have these pandemics and things like that. It's unacceptable. in the year 2021, right? There should be, it should just, everything could be treated with a pill or, a potion. It should be. And probably could be, but, you never know and you can't talk about it. And I'm not going to get into that because that just drives people batty. I have had 0 concurrent viewers for this entire show. It's as if the show is not even on the air, even though it says live. It's really weird, really weird. But I don't know. Maybe is it because of my of this title card? Live 7 days a week, the morning show, the King of Swing. That people think it was a show of music, swing or something. I literally have had there's no viewers. It's weird. I don't know. They don't know what they're missing. Well, anyway, in a dystopian society, you're still going to have women with beautiful bodies like that. You're still going to be able to live your life. You just got to hope, stay away from levees and stay away from places where they built these dams and where these corporatists have taken profit. And even though they've, engineering skills exist, that they're just not being applied. Or less and less people are being involved. So the old guard, so to speak, the people with the talent are retiring and there aren't any young people apprenticing to fill that, that void. So they hire these people, and like I said, I've seen it firsthand in these construction firms. And it's like they don't know what they're doing. They've got the machinery. They've got people there and, the orange jackets and stuff. But they dig, they put some pipe down, cover it over, right? And then 2 or 3 weeks later, they're digging up that spot again and spending an entire day trying to fix something that happened, a leaky seal or a break in something, cover it over, and then a month later, they're back at it again because they didn't do it right. And there's no way you're going to take a country the size of the United States when you can't fix one street in one city in one state out of 50 states, when the real infrastructure problem are things like major power grids that run, thousands and thousands of crisscross thousands and thousands of miles, square miles, rail lines, bridges, right? And things and then gas lines and so, things real. I mean, so that's the dystopian. So society is going. So the billionaires are all going to leave. All right. So the money's gone. All right. The poor will just be pacified. They're not going to work. And why would they work? Right. The older people are either dying off or too old to do anything. They're retired. Right? And the people in between have got, no skills in real world skills to do things. They don't know they don't really understand how to seal a pipe underground that could withstand, like trucks and traffic going over it, and stuff. They just don't have the tricks of the trade. It's, instead you got these conspiracy theorists that say, oh, the Masonic, the Masons are like, or the Illuminati or something like that. When the reality is we need more Masons because they can lay brick, and foundations and build buildings that last hundreds of years. Right? And that's part of this. Yeah, there's secrets. There's trade secrets there that the Masons have. And that is how to build buildings. All right? That last, that That's it, you know. Yes, there are other esoteric and different things involved in any kind of organization, club, you know, whatever. But basically, it's about, you know, how to lay bricks, you know, to simplify it. People don't get it. They don't get it. And so there's all, you know, everything points towards this dystopian future, not to mention that you've got this solar cycle that's about to hit in the next decade or so that could also cause a major grid down situation. And I don't know what people who are living by the phone, you know, by texting, by, you know, whatever, that it's become the center of their entire life are going to do when one day they wake up and they can't do it. You know, in other words, there's no electricity. Now, a guy like me, I've got this thing underneath that, whatever you want to call it, the transistor radio. That's the jackery thing that I have on my great solar stuff, you know. And, you know, so I have power, you know. So power goes out, I've got power. Enough power to do the things I want to do. And I know how, in fact, I've started to collect my own seeds in the past year or so, which I never thought I would really do because I used to just buy seeds. But now I've actually collect my own seeds when my plants go to seed. And I find that those seeds, since I've grown some this year, are much better than the ones I've purchased. You know, because they've been pollinated. Some have been cross-pollinated. It's very interesting. I never really was a flower person per se, but I planted flowers around to bring in the pollinators, the bees and whatnot. And so I put them at strategic locations in various corners of my yard, you know, and around the building and fences and stuff. And it's real interesting to see the type of flowers that have, like the hybrids and things that have come up, because these are seeds that I basically saved and collected from last year's flowers after they were pollinated and then just became, you know, these seed pods or became, you know, some kind of seed. So, you know, for me, it's not a big deal. Remember, the only thing you have to do is eat and drink and have a roof over your head, technically, to be a living human being. And if you can grow food and brew your own beer and you can collect rainwater, not that I'm like that kind of prepper or homesteader, but I do know how to do that. And I do that, you know, partially. But if I had to do it to survive, I could. But what would everybody else do? You know, what would they do? It's interesting. And what are they going to do as this infrastructure fails? I mean, you know, they're right to talk about infrastructure bills. I mean, it's interesting and people can relate to it. But the point is, it's a task they can't do, you know. I mean, are they going to create some kind of robotic army to do it? I don't know. And would you trust? You know, I don't drive anymore, so I don't really care. But would you trust driving over a bridge that, you know, these robots built? You know, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting time to be alive. That's for sure. I've said that for a long time. You know, I thought the 70s was one of the best times. Well, actually growing up as a kid, I had fun as a kid. You know, I had a good childhood. And after high school, I thought that was some of the best years, you know, because we were, like I said, everything was over. We were free. It was a really good time. It was good music. Like I say, the Vietnam War was over. All that civil rights unrest, the feminist movement, all that stuff had ended. And we had just gotten into this thing, and it was just like people people were just having fun. And, life was about music and getting together, parties. We used to go to the beach and, it was just fun. The pursuit of happiness. That was the whole idea. And, earlier it was that, but, and earlier before that, it was that, but, then it was like this. And it was like, dating and having sex and going to parties and having fun and listening to music and concerts and, that kind of thing. Learning stuff. I don't know. Just living and doing. And then technology came along and it was fun and it did that. And I don't know. So, yeah, this is an interesting time, and it was an interesting time to live in. And, it's clearly coming to some kind of head. What's going to happen in the next decade or so is interesting. And, hopefully I'll make it, through to see what happens. But whatever it is, the status quo is not going to remain. And like I say, the writing's on the wall, and the music may be playing and the music may sound really good, but the music's going to stop, and you don't want to be that person that doesn't have a chair. So think about that. I hope today's show wasn't too boring. And I know I covered some of these things before, but these are the discussions we should have at this time. These are the important things to talk about. So that said, good morning. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Today was kind of weird in a sense too, that I had to wait around for an hour and a half to get started. So thanks for watching, putting up with the show. Visit TonyCaravanLive.com. Get one of those shirts. You don't know what you don't know. Everything you know is wrong. Game over, whatever. Try it. Support